Sunki, you read today.
Yes,
To
I
read
will read.
Rangada.
This divine being.
This divine being.
Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm. Okay. This divine being, Satchidananda, is at once impersonal and personal. It is an existence and the origin and foundation of all truth, forces, powers, existence, but it is also the once transcendent conscious being and the all person of whom all conscious beings are the selves and personalities. For he is their highest, for he is their highest self and the universal indwelling presence. It is a necessity for the soul in the universe, and therefore the inner trend of the evolutionary energy and its ultimate intention to know and to grow into this truth of itself, to become one with the divine being, to raise its nature to the divine nature, its existence into the divine existence, its consciousness into the divine consciousness, its delight of being into the divine delight of being, and to receive all this into its becoming, to make the becoming an expression of that highest truth, to be possessed inwardly of the divine self and master of its existence, and to be at the same time wholly possessed by him and moved by his divine energy, and live and act in a complete self-giving and surrender. On this side of dualistic and the theistic views of existence, which affirm the eternal real existence of God and the soul, and the eternal real existence and cosmic action of divine energy, express also a truth of the integral existence. But their formulation falls short of the whole truth if it denies the essential unity of God and soul, or their capacity for utter oneness, or ignores what underlies the supreme experience of the merger of the soul in the divine unity through love, through union of consciousness, through fusion of existence in existence.
Okay. So let's have a look at what he's saying. Okay. We'll go through each one. Shengo is explaining his own theory. He is contrasting it with the other theories, and he is sometimes agreeing partially, and sometimes he is not. See, all these things they are partial truths. Okay. So now he is giving his own theory. This divine being, Satchidananda, is at once impersonal and personal. So, very clearly, he is referring to the supermind, the consciousness at the supramental level, not at the spiritual level, ending at the highest with overmind. Because even in overmind, you don't have personal and impersonal together. Okay? They are separate. You may experience them, but they are separate. Okay? But when they are at once personal and impersonal, then it is supramental consciousness. So he is referring to the Satchidananda at the supramental consciousness and perhaps above also, but above that. But minimum is the supramental. Okay? This divine being, Satchidananda, is at once impersonal and personal. Impersonal means you see only the qualities, peacefulness, okay, vastness, freedom, all these things. Personal, you can see a form also of the divine. But what form will you see? It depends on the nature of the individual, how he wants to see. Whatever he wants to see, he will see. Because the divine is infinite and has no particular fixed form. He can take any form he wants. Incidentally, even the beings at the lower levels, even the vital worlds and the mental worlds, they can take any form they want. By the way, you should understand this. Even the vital beings have the capacity to take any form they want. Okay, so that is there. It's a fact. At the supreme level, of course, the divine can take any form he wants, but he doesn't take any form he wants because he wants nothing. But what you want to see, the individual wants to see, he will see the divine in that form. Okay, so it's an existence and the origin and foundation of all truths, forces, powers, existences. But it is also the one transcendent conscious being and the all person, of whom all conscious beings are the selves and personalities. So this all person is a very interesting thing. Yesterday we had the discussion on the oversoul. So this all person, he is the person who represents each of the individual persons in the physical world. Okay? So not very easy for the human mind to understand, but you have to take it with a pinch of salt. You have to, unless you experience it, it will not be clear. It's also the one transcendent conscious being. Okay? When he's saying conscious being, it means it has a form. Okay? So, but it's also the one transcendent conscious being and the all person, of whom all conscious beings are the selves and personalities. Each individual soul is one particular aspect of the all person. For he, Shivam is now using the word he, because the divine being, sometimes when he speaks of Satchidananda and he is talking of the impersonal aspect, he says it. But here he is saying he because it is personal and impersonal, and he has called it the divine being. Okay? So, for he is their highest self and the universal indwelling presence. So he is their highest, which is the transcendent, but is also the universal indwelling presence, which is universal as well as the individual. Okay, he is there in the individual as well as there in the universal. It is a necessity for the soul in the universe, and therefore, so what we'll do, we'll read the sentence in two ways. We'll read the parenthetical phrase separately, and we'll also read the without the parenthetical phrase. So I'm now reading it first, only the parenthetical phrase. And therefore, the inner trend of the evolutionary energy and its ultimate intention. So what is the ultimate intention? Now we read the sentence without the parenthetical phrase. Okay? It is a necessity for the soul in the universe, okay, to know and to grow into this truth of itself, to become one with the divine being, to raise its nature to the divine nature, its existence into the divine existence, its consciousness into the divine consciousness, its delight of being into the divine delight of being, and to receive all this into its becoming at the lower level, okay, your nature, to make the becoming an expression of that highest truth, to be possessed inwardly of the divine self and master of its existence, and to be at the same time wholly possessed by him and moved by his divine energy and live and act in a complete self-giving and surrender. Several sentences are so large, we have to take each phrase because we have to understand each phrase. So we are going to do that now. Okay, so it is a necessity for the soul in the universe to know and to grow into this truth of itself. What is this truth of itself? Each individual soul is a divine. And the truth is, it is personal and impersonal. It is also all substance, consciousness, force, and ananda. So it has to know all this. Okay? To know and to grow into this truth of itself, to become one with the divine being. Okay? And the parenthetical phrase now comes in. And therefore, the inner trend of the evolutionary energy and its ultimate intention. So what is he saying in the parenthetical phrase? Because the human soul is essentially the divine, okay, he must know what the divine is. Right now, he is in the ignorance of the level 1, and he has to go and become that, because that's his evolutionary end, that's the evolutionary aim, intention. He has to know the divine. Each individual has to know the divine. That's the meaning of the evolution. That's what he's saying. And he's adding it as a parenthetical phrase. And this knowing and growing into the divine is of many types. Okay, they can be separate also in the spiritual planes of consciousness. But Sriyamdo's case, he wants absolutely integrally. We'll discuss that. To become one with the divine being, okay, what does that mean? That means your soul substance must become the soul substance of the divine. Okay, so substance itself, it must become that. Okay. We have a substance in the body, we have substance in the vital, subtler substance, we have a substance also in the mind, which is even subtler, and the soul is almost substance-less. It is so subtle, but it can take a form, and that substance of the soul must become the divine substance, Sat. That's what he's saying. Now it is possible that the substance of your soul will become that of the divine soul, a divine substance, but you may not experience the ananda and the power and the consciousness. That's possible. Okay. Because then different cases are there he has discussed. Okay. So Shremda wants your substance to become that of the divine substance. He wants your consciousness, the next one. It's consciousness into the divine consciousness. He is very consciously repeating all these because they can be separated also. The consciousness of the soul must become the consciousness of the divine. Its delight of being into the divine delight of being. The ananda that you are capable of in the vital has to become the divine ananda, which is absolutely faultless and pure. Our ananda in the vital is distorted, and also it is misdirected towards objects like desire and attachment and all these things. Because mind you, desire also gives you ananda, not ananda but pleasure, and attachment also gives you ananda. Okay, and ego also gives you ananda, distorted ananda. So all this has to become absolute ananda of the motiveless, self-existent, pure ananda. It has to become. That's what Sridhar is saying. There is the ultimate end. It's very difficult, and most human beings don't do that. They go only to the spiritual levels of consciousness and experience only one aspect. Their substance can become that of Sat, or it can become consciousness, or it can become Ananda. You remember in the Life Divine, he has discussed this. When you go to the spiritual planes of consciousness and you experience your substance becoming one with the substance, then you end up with the Mayavada theory. Because that substance is so real, the world substance becomes unreal to you. Okay? So that is it ends in the Mayavada philosophy or the Buddhistic philosophy. And if your consciousness, okay, becomes one with the consciousness of the Satchidananda, then you end up with the Sankhya philosophy, the Purusha Prakriti principle. Okay? And if you have the identification with the Ananda aspect, you experience the Ananda aspect more than the others, then you see the divine play in the universe, the Leela. So that's the Vaishnava theory. So that's why it is possible to experience all these things separately. That's why Srimad is taking the trouble of mentioning each and repeating each word. Okay, look at that. That's why he wants integrality, to become one with the divine being, to raise its it's a necessity to become one with the divine being, to raise its nature to the divine nature. Now, what does that mean? Because your nature can be left below and your soul can go above, and most of the time the yogi is very satisfied with that. But Sridhar is not satisfied with that. Even your nature, okay, the nature of your body, mind, life, that has to also become divine. What does that mean exactly? It means that the tamas in the body has to become real peace. Okay? The gunas must become the divine gunas. The human gunas must become the divine gunas. In other words, which is the guna of the body? Tamas. And tamas is inability to act and unwillingness to act. That becomes conscious, willing peace, but stability. Okay? That's the difference between the divine, if I can call it tamas in inverted commas, and the tamas in the body. Okay? It has become absolute conscious peace. Okay? Then what about the vital? The vital is the capacity to enjoy, but in the wrong way. So it must become absolutely capable of pure enjoyment. It has to become that. And force. The vital also it has force to a certain extent, but it must become the divine force. Only energy, pure energy without any impurities. And the mind The mind's capacity of knowledge, that is a sattva. And that sattva must become luminous light of knowledge. That is what Shabda means by its nature. It must raise its nature to the divine nature. This is what he means. Okay, he has explained that in other places very clearly. So this is what Shabda wants. But normally it doesn't happen. When a yogi goes only to the spiritual planes of consciousness, his body-mind life remains below, unpurified, and they remain the Triguna, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, remains Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, untransformed. But Srivanda wants it to be transformed. Okay? So that's what Srivanda is saying. Now he is saying its existence into the divine existence. That is the substance. Existence is substance. Subtle substance. Its consciousness into the divine consciousness. Its delight of being into the divine delight of being. And to receive all this into its becoming. Now that's the next one. So when you are rising in consciousness, ascent, okay, when you are ascending, then your soul goes to the higher levels of consciousness, but the body remains at the lower level, unpurified and ignorant. Now Swami is saying, first you go up, and then you bring all this down, and to receive all this into its becoming. Which is the becoming? Your body-mind life. Okay? So once you have ascended to those planes, take the trouble of bringing all those things down into the body, mind, and life. The body must become capable of absolute conscious peace, not tamas. Okay, stability, but a conscious stability and a willed stability. Okay. And the vital also must become absolutely pure. It must become full of power, divine and divine enjoyment. And the mind must be lit up with the light of knowledge, of the integral knowledge. So this is what Srivanda wants. This is that's why Srivanda yoga is ascent and descent. Most of the other yogas only ascent. They go up and they don't bother about the lower. But Srivanda wants this very clearly. To raise its nature to the divine nature and to receive all this into its becoming. To make the becoming an expression of that highest truth. Okay? The becoming is a body-mind life. Okay? An expression of that highest truth to be possessed inwardly of the divine self. Okay? Srivanda's famous word, favorite word, possess. When you possess something, you are master of it. Okay? So you can do what you want with it. To be possessed inwardly of the divine self, the divine can do whatever he wants with you. You become a perfect instrument and master of its existence. And to be at the same time wholly possessed by him. So you must have the capacity to use that power, use that consciousness, and use that ananda as you want, and give it to others also because you are master of it. But you also want to be a servant of the divine. He must possess you. This is very interesting because he says that in the record of yoga. He says, you must be absolutely master of your own nature, but you must also be the slave of God. Okay? So, if you are a slave of God, he will possess you. And if you are master of your nature, you will possess the divine consciousness. Both are there necessary. Okay? That is the end of evolution according to Sri. It will take a long time to become a fact, but when the supramental grace comes, that's possible. Okay? I go on to the next. To be possessed inwardly of the divine self and master of its existence, and to be at the same time wholly possessed by him and moved by his divine energy and live and act in a complete self-giving and surrender. What does it mean? You have become a perfect instrument in the hands of the divine. And he will work through you. Now he has got an instrument and he can work much more powerfully in the physical world than before. If he has an instrument here and the instrument is obeying him fully, naturally, he can do his work of evolution much faster here. On this side, the dualistic and theistic views of existence, which affirm the eternal real existence of God and the soul, and the eternal real existence and cosmic action of the divine energy, express also a truth of their integral existence but their formulation falls short of the one whole truth if it denies the essential unity of God and soul, or their capacity for utter oneness, or ignores what underlies the supreme experience of the merger of the soul into the divine unity through love, through union of consciousness, through fusion of existence and existence. Again, we'll go carefully into each phrase and see what he said. So he's saying dualistic. So what is the dualistic? It's the philosophy of the Madhvacharya and others, and even in the other religions, you can experience the divine and have relation with the divine. And that relation can be in consciousness, it can be in force, and it can be in ananda also. So if you have a relation with the divine, the individual soul is separate from the divine. There is a dualistic theory that in the other religions also, in Christianity also, it's impossible to become the divine. But you can have a relation with the divine. Okay? So that the Vedanta does not agree. Okay? Vedanta says you can also become the divine. Okay? And the theistic view of existence, is that theism, the divine is there everywhere in the transcendent. So that also has got a truth, but only partial truth. That's what is mentioned. Okay? And the eternal real existence and cosmic action of the divine energy express also a truth of the integral existence, but only one aspect of the truth. But their formulation falls short of the whole truth if it denies the essential unity of God and soul. So essential unity of God and soul, the soul must merge into the sea of the divine. The wave becomes one with the sea. That's a union that comes normally from the Jnana Yoga path. Okay. So, but there's also the other relation of the Bhakti Yoga path where you have a relation with the divine. So all these are truths, but they are only part truths. That's the whole thing. And note also interestingly, the experience is genuine, but their formulation, the way they express it, falls short of the whole truth if it denies the essential unity of God and soul. So, the Madhvacharya philosophy, dualism, says that you can't become the divine. So Siddha is saying that's not the whole truth. You can become the divine. Okay? But the whole truth, if it denies the essential unity of God and soul, or their capacity for utter oneness, and ignores what underlies the supreme experience of the merger of the soul in the divine unity through love. Love also will give you normally relationship, but even there, it is possible to become the divine. You can become. Even in unity, you can have love. Now that's very interesting because usually when there's only one person, how can there be love? For love, you need two, lover and loved. But it is possible in the spiritual experience to become one with the divine and still have ecstasy. It's possible. So all these truths are being missed by the partial theories. That's what Siddha is pointing out. Through union of consciousness, through fusion of existence with existence. So again he is repeating, union of consciousness through fusion of existence in existence. Your substance can become one with the substance of the divine. Your consciousness can become the consciousness of the divine. And your ananda also can become experience the ananda of the divine. But he wants all together. Sure. Okay. That is the ultimate truth. That's what he's pointing out. Now we can go to the next para. Okay. The manifestation of the being in our universe. So they have how much we have got? We have about 15 minutes. So we can read the next one. The manifestation of the being in our universe. So who will read? Shilpa? Shilpa,
Yes, Rangada.
I met your son yesterday in front of the ashram. So he has come here for the darshan, or he has come here to see you, or he's going back very quickly, na?
All in one. His birthday, darshan, everything.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Tomorrow is evening.
Yeah. Okay, so will you read?
Yes, yes.
Go ahead. The manifestation of the being.
The manifestation of the being in our universe takes the shape of the introduction involution, which is the starting point of an evolution. Matter, the nethermost stage, spirit, the summit. In the descent into evolution, there can be distinguished seven principles of manifested being, seven gradation of the manifesting consciousness, of which we can get a perception or a concrete realization of the presence. An immanence here are a reflected experience. The first three are the original and fundamental principles, and they form universal states of consciousness to which we can rise. When we do so, we can become aware of supreme planes or levels of fundamental manifestation or self-formulation of the spiritual reality in which is put in front of the unity in front the unity of the divine existence, the power of the divine consciousness, the bliss of the divine delight of existence, not concealed or disguised as here, for we can possess them in their full independent reality. A fourth principle of supplemental truth consciousness associated with them, manifesting unity in infinite multiplicity. It is the characteristic power of self-determination of the infinite. These quadfold power of the supreme existence, consciousness, and delight constitutes an upper hemisphere of manifestation based on the spirit's eternal self-knowledge. If we enter into these principles or into any plane of being in which there is a pure presence of the reality, we find in them complete freedom and knowledge. The other three powers and planes of being, of which we are even at present aware, form a lower hemisphere of the manifestation, a hemisphere of mind, life, and matter. These are in themselves powers of the superior principles, but wherever they manifest in a separate from their spiritual sources, they undergo as a result a phenomenal lapse into a divided in place of the true undivided existence. This lapse, this separation creates a state of limited knowledge, exclusively concentrated on its own limited world order and oblivious of that is behind it, and the underlying unity, a state therefore of cosmic and individual ignorance.
Ignorance, yeah. So, Sridhar is giving his own interpretation and he's talking about the seven planes of consciousness. And remember, the seven planes of consciousness are the Vedic theory and Sridhar subscribe to them. But you can, from the highest to the lowest, you can divide as you want. Okay? You can say that there is no division. Everything is the divine. You can say that. And there is a truth in it. Okay? The divine is, as in the first chapter of the Love Divine itself, we say, matter is not only a good substance, good clothing for the divine to wear, but it's also itself the divine. Okay? He says that in the very first chapter, second paragraph, or third paragraph. Matter itself is the divine. So you can say there's only oneness, there's nothing else. Highest and lowest are all essentially the same. But you can also say two. Okay? That is, spirit and matter are two different things, and they are opposites. That also you can say it is true. But Sridhar is following the Indian philosophies normally they refer to three: the gross world, the subtle world, and the causal world. Okay, so or as they say, Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti. Okay, these are the three planes of consciousness in a very broad categorization. But you can also say five. Okay. You can say Annamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, Manomaya Purusha, Vijnanamaya Purusha, Anandamaya Purusha. So there you can divide into five. Depends on where you draw the line. Sridhar prefers to draw the lines according to the Vedic principle. 7 principles. That's what he's saying here. And the 7 principles are, at the highest level, Sat, Chit, Ananda. And Sat, Chit, Ananda are the higher hemisphere. They are divine in essence. Okay. Then there's a lower manifestation, which is the lower hemisphere of mind, life, and body. And the two are connected with the link world, which is the supermind. The supermind is that which makes manifestation possible. If supermind is not there, The permanent one can never become the many because it is permanent one. And the permanent many in the physical world remains permanent unless there is something which can link it to become that. And that's why the supermind is absolutely essential to manifestation, for manifestation, and it's also the link by which the lower can go to the higher and the higher can come down to the lower. That is what he is explaining here, but there is a lot more details. Okay? I gave you only the gist. So let us see what he's saying. We still have 9 minutes, so we'll try and see whether we can go a little more into this detail. The manifestation of the being. Okay? The being here, he is using the word in the sense of a conscious being, but also the impersonal being. Okay? Satchidananda. The manifestation of the being in our universe, okay, the physical universe, takes the shape of an involution, which is the starting point of an evolution. So from the highest level, it's an involution coming down and manifesting itself in degrees and gradations. And then there's an evolution starting from the lowest and climbing slowly upwards and going back to where it came from. So there's an involution and an evolution. Involution is downwards, evolution is upwards. Matter is the nethermost stage. Nether, absolutely the rock bottom. Nethermost stage is matter. He is using that in a very general manner because inconscient is even lower than matter. Matter has some amount of consciousness, but in the inconscient, there apparently doesn't seem to be any consciousness at all unless it is inherent. Okay? But this is why he is using the word matter, the nethermost stage, spirit, the summit. So he is dividing into two. Okay? In the descent into evolution, there can be distinguished 7 planes, principles of manifested being. 7 gradations of the manifesting consciousness, of which we can get a perception or a concrete realization of the presence and immanence here, a reflected experience. So we can, even when we are at the lower level of consciousness, below the overmind level, we can get a glimpse of the Satchidananda. All these we can get. But they are only reflections. They are not the real thing. For the experiencing the real thing, you have to go beyond level 2 of the spiritual planes of consciousness and go into the supermind. Then only you will get the real, not a reflection, but the actual thing. But otherwise, they are all reflections. Okay? Mirror images. Okay? The first 3 are the original and fundamental principles. Sridhar is saying, he calls Sat Chit Ananda fundamentals. And the corresponding lower, which is the mind, life, body, he calls them instrumentals. Okay? He uses these 2 words elsewhere. Fundamentals are Satchidananda because they are absolutely, they are absolutes. But the mind, life, body are not absolutes, they are relatives, and they are also instruments for the divine manifestation. So he calls them instruments. Okay? Instrumentals. The first 3 are the original and fundamental principles. What are they? Satchidananda. And they form universal states of consciousness to which we can rise. Okay? But rise in the spiritual planes. When we do so, we can become aware of supreme planes of or levels of fundamental manifestation or self-formulation of the spiritual reality, in which is put in front the unity of the divine existence, the power of the divine consciousness, bliss of the divine delight or existence. Not concealed or disguised as here, for we can possess them in their full independent reality. That is possible only at the above, the supermind. A 4th principle of supermental truth consciousness is associated with them. Okay? Manifesting unity in infinite multiplicity. So there you are, it is at the higher level, there is only oneness. There is no multiplicity. But in the supermental, there is unity as well as multiplicity. Okay? It combines both. It is the characteristic power of self-determination of the infinite. What does that mean? It means that the infinite can decide that it wants to become the finite. Okay? It's the characteristic power of self-determination. I can make myself into whatever I want. I determine my own infinity into finite forms. This quadruple power of the supreme existence, consciousness and delight, constitutes an upper hemisphere of manifestation based on the spirit's eternal self-knowledge. If we enter into these principles or into any plane of being in which there is a pure presence of the reality, we find in them a complete freedom and knowledge. If you manage to get even a reflection of it. The other three powers or planes of being, of which we are even at present aware, because of body, mind, life, okay, form a lower hemisphere of the manifestation, a hemisphere of mind, life, and matter. These are in themselves powers of the superior principles. The superior principles are Satchidananda, and Satchidananda corresponds to mind, life, matter in this way. Sat becomes matter, Chit Shakti becomes life, okay, and mind becomes supermind, and then Ananda becomes a psychic being. These are the connections, okay. These are in themselves powers of the superior principles. But wherever they manifest in a separation from their spiritual sources, they undergo as a result a phenomenal lapse into a divided in place of the true undivided existence. So what happens when Satchidananda is coming down? The law of diminution, the law of separation, and the law of degradation start becoming reality, but only superficially. Okay, so that's why the one becomes the many, the consciousness becomes the unconsciousness, the ananda becomes suffering and pleasure, okay, and the power becomes the incapacity. So, but this is only superficial. The real Satchidananda is there, hiding behind the forms. That's what Sridhar is saying. Okay, so phenomenal lapse. The phenomenal lapse is the practical lapse. Actually, it's not real lapse. Okay, the divine is there, but it covers himself up with his dividedness. Okay, as the Gita says very clearly, undivided seeming to be divided. Okay? Okay. A true undivided existence, this lapse, this separation, creates a state of limited knowledge, exclusively concentrated on its own limited world order and oblivious of all that is behind it. We see only the surface and not the deeper aspect. Therefore, the underlying unity and therefore the state of cosmic and individual ignorance. So, the consciousness becomes ignorant at a lower level due to the apparent law of gradation, degradation, diminution. Okay. These are words which I am using so that we have a clear picture of the whole thing. Okay, so it's now exactly 8:40, or rather 1 minute more to go. So they finished 2 paras today. Okay, very clear statement. 7 planes of consciousness. The upper planes are the fundamentals, and this upper hemisphere, and the lower planes are the so-called undefined planes of consciousness, but they are really those same things only, but in a degraded form, in a diminished form. But this diminution and degradation is only superficial. But since we are only in the superficial aspect, we are subject to ignorance. So the Buddhist is saying, since this is a degraded condition, if you want the undegraded condition, you have to go to the spiritual level of consciousness. So Sridhar is saying, no, the surface only is the degradation, but even in the body, mind, life, you can have a divine consciousness. It's possible. Okay. So we stop here today. Okay. Very clearly, Sridhar told us what his theory is. Okay. I hope it was clear. Sometimes you may feel that we are going too fast, and if it is so, you can always stop me. Huh? So, so, shall we stop here today? And I bid everybody.
Thank you, Dada. Thank you,
Okay.
Dada. All over.
Au revoir, everybody. Have a nice day.
Good morning.